All right, so we're recording here live, and it's Friday in the K-Swiss office. We're doing K-Swiss live. In fact, you did K-Swiss live yesterday.
Yeah.
But we're doubling up. So, and I've got it on my live. What's up, Luce? And Omar's got it on his too. And what are we talking about this week in the world of K-Swiss?
There's a lot of things going on. I mean, the number one thing I think we should really talk on is you and I had a lot of entrepreneur stuff happen this week with Thomas visiting us.
Yeah.
Talked about sales presentation stuff.
What's up, Ben?
How to become like a better speaker. You know,
yeah. So Thomas Ma came through. So first of all, he has always stayed in touch. It's really interesting how, these days everybody's really reachable. So if you've got companies or people that you are interested in or inspired by or whatever, you actually can reach most people just by hitting them up on LinkedIn or Instagram. And, no one's really that off limits anymore. And certainly for us is we're pretty open to, reach out to people or to have people come through our office. So a lot of times, we have fans of the brand come visit us, and in this case, Thomas Ma, who runs a social agency, is doing really well, really focused on TikTok. So he gave us a lot of tips on TikTok when he was here, and how brands aren't really yet fully embracing TikTok. The kids are on there; it's really growing, but brands are not necessarily committed fully to TikTok. In fact, in our space, even Nike and Adidas both have closed.
Yeah, they have private accounts. They have it, but they're not using it.
Right. So they have private accounts even in our space, the biggest competitors. So, and anyone who's followed our journey on K-Swiss knows that, we try and be really progressive. And I think I've purposefully tried to make the brand really progressive in terms of jumping on new things, especially because K-Swiss is always an older brand and it was a, heritage legacy brand. So I think sometimes to counterbalance the perception of K-Swiss as an old brand, you've got to do stuff really, really new, right? So you've got to over-index in newness to try and find that balance of being perceived as old. And so things like creating a podcast studio and broadcasting this way, I think has really been progressive. And lots of other examples like the entrepreneur strategy, the fact that we jumped really early on esports,
podcasting,
all that stuff. So I think TikTok's another example where we got to get on that early. So Thomas came in, talked to us about TikTok. Also, then he runs events called Stacking Growth, which is a lot of young entrepreneurs in the LA area get together. They talk about a lot of digital marketing tactics, and he invited me to come along and speak. So I'm going to go speak to that audience on next Tuesday in Glendale. I think it's limited to 100 attendees.
It's free too, so...
And it's free. It's like a giving back thing where he tries to give back and educate people and inspire people. So we're going to go talk to him and to the audience on Tuesday evening in Glendale. So check it out. Go to @StackingGrowth Instagram. And the link's in their bio for all the information. So that's that. So Thomas came through, but I always encourage anyone, if you want to come see us, just reach out. We actually host people. We tour the office. We show new stuff.
Today there's another entrepreneur gal from Chile. Her name's Carolina Millan, and she's coming in. She already messaged 4:00. She will come through, and if we can, we will always open arms, hugs.
That's right. Hi, Chris. Mr. William Palmer, I see you there too.
And
see
Rena
if you've Lucy got a shout out. Rena? She got another one. Rena, what's up? Nice to see you. So the other thing I want to talk about is what's hot on TV, and especially the show that everyone's been obsessed with is called Cheer. And to tell you a brief story, my lovely wife was away for the weekend last weekend, and she went to Boston to see her family. So I was alone with the kids, and the catchphrase when Chris goes away is, when the cat's away, the mice do play. In other words, the boss is out of town, so all the rules are off. And I thought it'd be a good bonding experience to watch a show with my daughter, who's a teenager. And so I picked Cheer, which is a new Netflix show about cheerleading. And I thought, my daughter's going to love this. So we watched the first episode, fantastic. And then she was over it and she went up to her room to go text her friends. And I marathoned the whole thing on my own over the next 48 hours. And it was like fantastic.
I don't even know what it's about. You said cheerleading. What does
It's
that
about
mean?
cheerleading, yeah. So the fact that I'm watching a cheerleading documentary is weird and creepy all at the same time. But I do highly recommend it because it's about a group of cheerleaders who go compete in this competition. And it's just fascinating. And they've been on Ellen and they've all got millions of followers now based off of this show that's been out. And it's kind of one of the buzz Netflix documentary shows. It's called Cheer. Check it out. So anyway, I thought to myself, why is it that I was interested in this show?
I want to know too.
Okay. And I know why. Because I think it's about excellence. It's about people who are 100% excellent at what they do. Okay. And it's the work they put in and the dedication they put in to achieving what they're trying to do. And the fact that they are just the best of the best at this sport, which is very gymnastic, very dynamic. And it's almost like the equivalent of watching, say, what was the rock climbing one with Alex Honnold when he went up?
72? Oh, I know.
El Capitan in Yosemite. It was whatever. You know what the show's called. He climbs with no ropes.
I'm looking at Mason for the answer.
Yosemite, up El Capitan, the route up the nose. And it was just unbelievable, the show. Again, Omar, you've been living under a rock?
I don't watch TV. The only thing I've watched lately, and that was because of a Hinge date, was Lost in Space.
All right, let's not get Omar talking about his Hinge date because I've already had this story today and it was long and emotional.
I got
Don't touch me.
Advice.
Don't touch me. I did give us some relationship coaching advice. But Free Solo, thank you, Oscar Waters. Free Solo was the name of the thing. And the reason I loved that Free Solo, again, it was just someone at the 100% top of their game who is achieving something so amazingly difficult. And this was the same as the show Cheer. And if you can wrap it in a really compelling narrative and show, then it's even better. And I think I suddenly thought that I love and I always am fascinated by people who are excellent at what they do, the best of the best. And any story about someone who's just elite at something, I'm fascinated by. And I think it takes, first of all, it should inspire you if you're trying to be great at something. And I had this conversation with my son about we're doing some martial arts and saying, hey, what are our goals in doing this? Like, my instinctively is like, I want to be great at it. It's like anything I do, I want to be great at, even though with what we're doing, I have no chance of being great. In fact, I'm terrible at it, but my mindset's to be great at it, right? Whereas his is like, I just want to have fun and have a go. But if you have the mindset of being great at something, there are so many great examples that don't have to be in your industry or in your, it could be the best gymnast or the best rock climber. Those stories are all out there. And I think when you're really comfortable in your own situation, you're much more free to be able to give kudos to others, right?
Yeah.
If you're truly happy in yourself, you're able to say, hey, you're great at that, good job. When you're not comfortable with your own situation, you're way less likely to be able to give kudos, and you're like, oh, that person sucks, or they probably got it for free, or their dad's probably rich, or.
And we talked about this because this is just my idea behind it, is when you are, chasing personal greatness is what I call it, and you work on yourself, whatever that is, it either motivates people or it makes people jealous. The people that you motivate is because they see something in you that you become better and happier or whatever it is, and they want that and they know it's not out of their reach. The people that get jealous, they just don't want to put in the work, whatever it is, and it's easier to be like what you just said, angry because they see you becoming better at something and they're not getting better themselves, and that's a dangerous place to be in.
Yeah, and there's a note here from the Darling Revolution that says, we have a tendency to project our insecurities on everyone else. And that's so true. Well said. that's absolutely right. You know, you project that stuff, and that's where all this kind of internet hating is from. And when people are hating on the internet, it's never about the target. It's always about them. You know what I'm saying? And if you get in your head that, hey, this is not about me if it's aimed at me, it's about the person who's giving it. Because if people are actually comfortable in themselves and happy in themselves, then they're going to give you props for what you're doing, even if it's better than them. You know, I see people all the time doing way better than me, and I'm comfortable enough at this point to say, man, you're killing it. You know, great job.
That's why Barney always compliments me.
Do I? No. So there you have it. Yes, Lucy, I am preaching. And actually, Lucy, you got a shout out on last week's podcast, which you would have known if you were listening, about this Anthony Burrell print that you kindly gifted me. Not as good as the one I gifted you. That's a secret story.
We bring people in here all the time because this is like the coolest room, and it's the artwork that makes it. Hence, all the podcasts, we face it this way because it just looks dope.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hire Barney to be the interior designer of my
studio.
studio.
Well, I've got someone I can connect you with if you're into that. Now, the other thing I want to talk about real quick is the book I've been reading. Again, it's called Talk Like TED. We actually mentioned this last week because we're actually starting something here called K-Swiss University, and I'm not sure if
you told me.
If I told you that.
Yeah.
And K-Swiss University is really just going to be an internal training syllabus. And we've got Andrew Pine is going to do the basics of Excel, for example. Well, I'm actually going to teach public speaking because apparently there's been a lot of people who are interested in learning about that. So I'm actually writing a course right now, like a 3-session course on how to give a speech. And it's based on this book, which is called Talk Like TED, which is really recommend anyone who wants to do public speaking. This is a book that is written by Carmine Gallo and is the culmination of about hundreds of TED Talks where it's been analyzed to find the little tactics that make a great speech, and it's all in this book. And you can see that I take a lot of notes, and I write my cliff notes. I write in the book. I write over it, and whenever I read a book like this, I always have with me the highlighter pen, and I highlight the areas. And then once I finish the book, I'll go back and then write the notes from all the things I highlighted to sort of come away with like a cliff note page. So when you go, I remember reading that book, you can go back to the one pager and it's got all the insights from to reread the book again. You can just take your page of insights. So within this copy of Talk Like TED is my page of insights from when I took my notes. So now I can kind of just work off of that and put together
that's a really good
course.
Idea.
So we're going to offer this to all of our employees to come to the presentation skills course. And again, I encourage you to read this. One other little tip I'll give you guys is that in rereading this, it's all about storytelling. Okay, so when people give presentations, they sort of I just laugh. I'm just looking at my sister's comment, which I'm going to ignore, and people open PowerPoint, right? And they start writing slides. And what the book will tell you is before you ever open PowerPoint, figure out what your story is. What are you trying to say? What's the story arc you're trying to build? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then once you've got a really compelling story, you can now turn that into slides and, the visual assets to deliver that story, because the currency of the 21st century is ideas. But ideas are nothing if you can't present them. Mm-hmm. And so an idea that's not presented well or doesn't land or isn't sold is useless. And so a lot of this is about storytelling and how to build stories. It sort of gives you a step-by-step guide on how to do that. One other thing, it talks, it says that stories are just data with a soul. Okay, because a story is about facts, but it's told in a really interesting, compelling way. And there's a YouTube video of a TED Talk. For anyone who's joined late, we're talking about public speaking. What's up, Wizza? And the video, if you want to go look it up, is by a guy called Hans Rosling. So Hans, Hans, Rosling, Rosling, Hans Rosling. If you look up Hans Rosling TED Talk, you will find it. And his story is about using data in a really compelling way. It's how do you present data in a fun way? And it's really fun to watch him present what is essentially boring data in a really compelling way. And so that's a great little tip for you for sort of
I was cracking
presenting.
up because I peeked into Barney's office. I'm like, what the hell is he watching? It's like this dude with graphs and then you explained it to me. And
that's why I was watching it, right? Because I want to use that as part of the course on presentation skills. And Oscar, good question. When is Ted ever going to show up to one of his talks? You know, the guy never shows up. He does all this, and then where is he? But yeah, so public speaking, and you know, apparently it's the number 2 fear of people is speaking in front of an audience. Number 1 fear? Death. So sorry. Number 1 fear is public speaking. Number 2 fear is death. Sorry, messed up that one.
Dang. I did public speaking last night.
Whereabouts?
I did stand-up comedy at a
you
random
did?
open mic. I made this little joke that I don't know if I can say.
Oh, God, go on. Let's
I'm
hear
not
it.
Say it, but I'm not going to tell the whole joke, but it's about finding Jesus.
Okay, let's save that one for afterwards. Let's not offend anyone.
That's what I don't want to say here.
Yeah.
It's you can go on my Instagram and you'll see the.
Well, I think it's really interesting because the other thing is about we talked today about you know, public speaking and some tools and some great inspiring things around that. We talked about, you know, being fascinated by people who are great at what they do and how there's examples of that everywhere if you go look at it, and how, you know, you've got to be comfortable in yourself to give props or kudos to other people, and when you're not is when your insecurities get reflected in your, you know, snidey comments on Twitter. But one thing that Omar just mentioned, which I think is really another final really valid point, is when you want to improve yourself, is find ways to make yourself uncomfortable. Okay, because so often we're in our routine, and you know, the best people will go and put themselves into difficult situations, or say, hey, I'm really good at this, so let me find something I'm not good at, and get the uncomfortable feeling back. Like you just said last night, I did stand-up comedy. That's got to be one of the most difficult,
I was nervous.
uncomfortable, right? So what caused you to go do that?
Well, I was on a random date and we ended up at an open mic, and they said, hey, who wants to go next? I just raised my hand, said, whatever, I'll do it. I don't know anybody.
And how did it go?
I made people laugh.
You did?
Yeah, it was
fantastic. Look at that.
It's just like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, no, exactly. So whether it's Omar doing stand-up comedy or me doing jiu-jitsu, neither of us should be doing either of those things, but you know, by putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations is where you start to grow, right? You put yourself in as a beginner again on something, and you have to learn again, and that's all really, I find that to be really energizing. So
the other thing I want to add, a quick note, what you were talking about on the topic of encouraging people, is look around the people in your office and where you work or where you hang out the most. I really believe that everyone around you has something special to offer, and it's not just the people that you follow on Instagram with millions and hundreds of thousands of followers. You can learn something special from everybody, and I think that will make your immediate surroundings and overall lifestyle and way of thinking so much more positive. So that's like the last little tip that I want to leave.
Yeah, and Omar's a real expert on personal growth and you know, how to, you know, get better and to level up, as he calls it. So follow Omar. He's actively doing that all the time. Whereas I'm more or less given up at this point. I sort of feel like this
is the guy doing jiu-jitsu.
This is about as good as it's going to get. I'm actually now I've peaked and I'm now on a downward slide, whereas you're still on the way up. So follow Omar for level up advice. But hopefully this has been interesting. We just wanted to to do a quick Friday. Simon, Goose, we love you. Thank you for chiming in. And with that, anything else we wanted to cover? We haven't talked about anything K-Swiss, have we?
I mean, this is the culture. This is what we want to...
This is the culture. But we also, we have a great collaboration coming out, launches next week with Willie Chavaria, a fashion designer, and we have a collection that's going to launch at Sneakers and Stuff New York.
On the 12th, and there's a party. So if you're in New York...
Yeah, if you're in New York next week, check it out. Look on our Instagram at K-Swiss. You'll find the details. If you're in the Glendale area next Tuesday, come see me, go to @Stacking Growth.
If you want to see Barney do jiu-jitsu, drop a comment.
Yeah,
in
do
his
not.
Instagram.
You don't want to see that. You do not want to see that. Give me a year and maybe.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Peace.